Ivana, welcome back. How was Hawaii?
Thank you. Oh, Mark. Oh my God. I dream of Hawaii. I've got a huge picture in my room and I look at it every night before I go to sleep. And on the other side, I've got a huge picture of Niagara Falls.
Niagara
So,
Falls. Okay,
yeah,
fantastic.
amazing place. Have you been?
I have, yeah. I've stood on top of them, and I've also been in a boat and getting extremely wet underneath the Niagara Falls, and cold, I must say as well. It was very cold the
Oh,
day I was
really?
there. Yeah,
I didn't do the boat. I wanted to, but hopefully next time.
it's an
Stunning
amazing
place.
place, isn't it? It's a freak of nature, that place.
And the fact that you standing so close, like you standing just and you feel like you can reach out and touch it. And the day we were there, it had the most beautiful rainbows because it was really hot, but then the steam, I guess, and it was stunning. So
Yeah.
so yeah, so I swing between Hawaii and even when we can't travel.
There you go. People are dialing into our episodes here talking about websites and they're fascinated by the travel talk. So we've got to keep this little mini segment going, I think, on every show. Okay, we're up to episode 6 for people that might be following, and we know there's a lot of people following this series now, so that's fantastic news. And it's really helping us get an understanding from Ivana's expertise in the web development space. And Ivana, I know that you're helping a lot of people out there with creating a new website or refurbishing their older websites. So we're going to get
Well,
into a
I'm
new
thrilled
subject.
to see that. I'm thrilled to hear that so many people are following us and hopefully helping them because looking at the numbers, and I'm not a numbers girl, but looking at the numbers with COVID, I think we're going to be stuck at home for quite a while. And I was talking to a friend in Canada yesterday, and he said we've just been hit with a second wave. So
Mm,
I think in Australia, we're incredibly lucky because we've gone back to normal, but everywhere else.
yeah.
So I'm glad to be, helping people take their business online if they haven't done that.
Well,
So,
shout out to our friends, our Kanak friends over there. And if you're going to be locked away for your autumn and your winter, build a website. There's a tip.
yeah.
Get out there and build a website and follow Ivana's advice. So, Ivana, what topic are we going to talk about today? Well, where are we up to in the series?
Well, I was just going to go over things that we talked about in the past in
Mm,
case somebody's just tuning in for the first time. So we've talked about the sort of the overall website design process, the 16 steps that you take to create or that I take to create a website. We also talked about the things you need to do or provide a website designer or developer if you're working with one, just to kind of eliminate any frustrations. Because oftentimes I find that there's miscommunication and misunderstanding between what is being delivered. And so that we covered that in one of our episodes. The next thing we also talked about choosing fonts and colors for your website. And then last week's episode, we discussed the design and layout of a homepage. And so we went into detail on all the aspects that should be included on a homepage, which is kind of like the first page that people land on. And today's topic, I believe, is the most important pages to include on your website.
yeah, this is
And we'll, yeah.
this is very interesting because people think, okay, I've got to have this and this and this, and as I've learnt, some of the pages I thought were necessary are not necessary at all. So I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of good information out of this one today.
So what pages did you believe were important to include?
Well, I was of the opinion that it's important to give people information about what your organisation is about, so they understand what you're doing and all the rest of it. But it's really about what you can do to help them and
Absolutely.
what
Very
you're doing
good.
for them. So that was my big learning curve from that process.
That's really good. I'm glad you got that because I think that's the general, I guess, misconception that people want to know about you, but they don't. They
Yeah,
really don't.
yeah,
So we'll cover the most important pages, and I think our next episode we're going to be covering additional pages that you might want to include because I really believe the more information you have on your website, the better. Not only for the search engines, but different people are used to doing different searches, and some people prefer just a little bit of information and they can make their decision, whereas other people want a lot of detail. And so the more detail you give them, the sooner they can make a decision about whether to engage you or buy your products and services.
I got an email from a lady called Alison in Hong Kong after the last show, and she talked about how it's helped her. The series has helped her train her mind on each of the things that we're talking about and how equally important they are. Because I think when people build a website, they kind of focus on one element and go, okay, this is really important, I've got to get this right. Whereas Alison was just saying, and I think it's a really valid point, that each of the topics we're talking about, they have their own level of relevance and importance in the whole process, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's a really good point, because I think people focus on what they know best. So the first thing is they know about themselves. Therefore, generally the first page I receive is the About Us page, and they talk about all sorts of things. And oftentimes they forget about the search engines, or they forget about the actual content, the fact that it's more important than the color of your fonts. But everything has its place. And I think, you know, for those people that maybe hadn't heard us before, going through the 16 steps and realizing that there's so much more to a website than just grabbing a couple of images and putting a bit of text and then, you know, thinking that if you build it, they will come, because they don't.
And the challenge with what we're talking about throughout the series is people have to be more patient. You know, we all know how easy it is to go to one of those other platforms that you don't like, and I'll say Wix as an example. We all know how easy it is to potentially go to those platforms and set up a website and think that you've got yourself out there in a good way. But the reality is, it's like anything in life. If you're going to do a good job, you need to take your time, you need to put the grind in, and then you're going to see the results from that, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I've got nothing against Wix and Squarespace. They have their own place. And I think we talked about people going on a journey. And for some people, they need to have a practice. They need to see it live. But generally what happens is they go through the process. They feel comfortable about having a website because there's so much to think about and consider. And sometimes just seeing it in print or on screen, you know, Wix is perfectly fine for that. Or if you've got a travel blog and you're not really wanting to make a lot of money from it and you're just happy just to have something that you can easily access, there's nothing wrong with it. But I think from a business perspective, you want something that will grow with you. And I have seen over and over and over that WordPress is that tool for the time being. I might change my mind next week. I might say, hey, let's go to Wix. But for this week, let's go WordPress.
Well, you might be thrilled to hear that you've converted me to a WordPress disciple now. So I'm out there with the WordPress flag. I haven't put it on. I haven't put it on the back of my boat yet, but I'm telling everybody WordPress is the way to go.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. But you've been on the journey through Wix or Squarespace. And
yeah, both of those actually over the years. So I can tick all the boxes now. I can actually talk from authority and say that don't waste your time, folks. Go straight to WordPress.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I'm glad that we've helped. Did you say Alison?
Alison in Hong Kong, yeah. And
hi, Alison, if you're listening today.
I've given her a challenge. I've said to her when she finishes a website to send it to us. And
absolutely.
And Ivana's going to give it the big red pen treatment and see how it looks.
Hopefully it'll be all thumbs up.
Okie dokie. So we're going to do in each episode a quick review on someone's website that they send in. So what have we got today, Ivana?
So today we've got Cameron, and I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. Is it Dueck?
Dueck, yeah. That's right. Dueck.
What language would that, like what nationality would that be? Do you know?
I was going to say he's probably from where you're from.
No, I don't know. It'll be interesting. So if you're listening, Cameron, I'd love to know where you're from.
40 years ago, Ivana, you took the big bird to Australia, and here you are.
I know, it's been quite a journey. So I think we talked about it before. We escaped from Czechoslovakia back in 1979 and lived in Germany for 8 months and then moved to Australia. So English is actually my second language.
You went from the frying pan into the fire, as they say.
Oh, did we? Yeah. I think it's the other way. No.
Do you want to do the rest of the show in Czech? We can do Dobry dan.
Are you swearing at me?
No. Cameron, let's see. Yeah, Cameron, tell
Okay.
us where you're from, mate, because
Let-
I know that Cameron's living in Hong Kong today, but I know that it's not his native homeland, so we'll find out where
Okay.
Cameron is. So we're going to have a look at his website, and
Okay.
you're going to tell us what you think. So here we go, folks. Here's Cameron's website.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say a couple of great things that Cameron has done really well. He's got a lot of content on the website, and so he's got some really good articles. The thing that I really liked is he's got credibility, and he has put in, but it's not prominent enough, unfortunately. He's put in as to a list of where his articles have been published. So you often see on websites as seen in or as featured on, and then people have well-known logos and things like that. So Cameron just mentioned, from memory, he just mentioned a few places where he's been published, which is really good. And the other good thing is he's got some really good photos, as in real photos. So well done on those, Cameron. My suggestions for improvement is your website looks like probably, and I'm not sure actually how you created that website, whether it is a WordPress website or whether it is one of the other platforms. But it looks like a template-based website, and you've kind of grabbed just standard stock sizes and navigation and things like that. So I think the layout needs to be improved, and especially the homepage, because we are very lazy. We don't want to read. You've got a lot of content, which is good from a search engine perspective, but not so much from a reader's perspective. And so I think the design definitely needs to be tweaked. The other thing which is really important, Cameron, is I noticed that you don't have an SSL certificate. And so next to you, so when I'm looking at your website, the very first thing I see is that your website is not secure. And whilst a few years ago it didn't make a big difference if you were not selling products or services, but these days Google will penalize you, and your ranking may potentially drop if you don't have an SSL certificate, and you can organize that through your web hosting company.
Yeah,
so that's really important. Now, when I arrived at your website, I didn't really know what the purpose of the website was. I noticed that you are a writer and an adventurer, and which is great. If it's just a personal hobby website, that's perfectly fine. But if you're wanting to make money from the website, I need to feel like I've arrived at the right place and I want to read more. Whereas if somebody's just passing through, they're not going to understand what it is that you're selling. And I noticed that you are selling a book, I think, but I'm not going to click through it because you haven't grabbed my attention early on. Just simply knowing that you love adventure and I love adventure, it's not going to entice me. So you've got 7 seconds to grab somebody's attention and say, I want to read more. So having a good tagline, having really good images is really important.
So can I ask a question about one of the things that you've said, because I've actually had this from a listener, and they said that when you talk about credibility on your homepage, and maybe they've been featured in some magazines and all the rest of it, does it matter what type of magazine it was? Like, is there better credibility than others? Like, if you're in some kind of trashy tabloid magazine, is that going to do more damage than good?
No, because publicity is publicity.
Okay.
And it depends really on the industry. If you're a celebrity and you're in the National Enquirer, well, that kind of goes without saying. But no, look, obviously people recognize the logo. So if they're recognizing the logo, they're not going to generally analyze like, oh, this is not a very high quality magazine. They go, oh, wow, he must be really good because he was featured in, on this show or that. So I would just and even if they are articles or websites that not other people know, but somebody in your industry knows, again, it's credibility by association. So
Okay.
I would still put it out there.
Okay.
But great question. Great question.
Cool.
Yeah, I think those would probably be the main points that I wanted to make for Cameron. Is I get that you're trying to sell the book, but it's not it's not really giving me enough information to entice me. There's not enough calls to action. And you will find, Cameron, it takes somewhere between 9 to 14 touch points for people to get to know you, like you, and trust you. And so they need to see your details, whether it's coming across your blog, on social media, or your emails, 9 to 14 times before they actually recognize your name, because we are so bombarded by information, and it goes in one ear and out the other, or one eye and out the other. So we don't remember a lot. So it's important that if you are, as I said, if it's a hobby website, not a problem. But if you're wanting to sell the book, grab people's email addresses and keep in touch with them.
I'm going to be interviewing Cameron on the show, and we're having this conversation for website design before I do that. And I know this guy has done some extraordinary adventure exploring across the world, and I also feel that website doesn't really truly represent what amazing stuff Cameron has done. So that would be my unofficial feedback to you, Cameron.
Fantastic.
I think that you have done such an extraordinary stuff, mate, that you're a pioneer in lots of different ways. But the website looks like something that doesn't replicate the adventure that you've really been on. So there's my limited knowledge feedback on a website.
And you've learned a lot. You've picked up, and that's awesome. And I think if you have been on a lot of adventures, feature the photos, like have a slideshow, have a video or something to grab people's attention. And if you've got any questions, just don't hesitate to reach out.
There we go. Good stuff. Okay, Ivana, thank you for reviewing Cameron's website, and
pleasure.
I'm going to ask Cameron during the show actually what he thought about the feedback and what he thinks, because I've got some time to do that before he comes on the show, so we'll do that.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, great.
Okay. On to today's topic.
So today's topic is the most important pages to include on your website. And so we're not going to go into a lot of depth for each page. In future episodes, we will cover the most important pages and what to include them. But so today I just wanted to cover sort of the top 7-8 pages that I believe every website needs to include. Mm-hmm. So the first one is your homepage, and your homepage is basically like your sales brochure. This is where most people will come, so you need to grab their attention. And last time we talked about the elements to include on the homepage, but homepage, you basically can't have a website without it. But make sure that there's not too much information, that it's not overwhelming, but more that it leads to other pages on your website, so that when somebody arrives on your homepage, they go, right, they've got me, I want to find out more.
Yep.
So homepage is number one. The next one are your services or products pages, or both if you've got both, if you offer both products and services. And I think in our next video, we're going to be actually talking about the services page.
We are.
And then also about the products page and what to include on those.
Yep.
Basically, the more information you include about each service, and I generally say have a page for each service or have a page for each product, and then include all the information you possibly can about that product or service. When somebody's looking at your website at 3 o'clock in the morning and they've got questions, they need to have those questions answered on your website. They're not going to call you, they're just going to go somewhere else. So incredibly important.
Make sure you sell coffee on your homepage.
Sorry?
If they're watching at 3 o'clock in the morning, make sure you sell coffee on your homepage.
Well, it's sad. More and more of us are sleeping less and less. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Buy a boat then. That's my answer. You'll sleep perfectly on a boat.
I must try that. The next one is a contact us page. Mm-hmm. Now, I have reviewed websites and I've seen websites, they either have no contact page or they just have contact details hidden maybe at the bottom of each page. And sometimes people won't make it to the bottom of the page. And so I would say include the contact, because that's one of the main things. You want people to contact you. So don't try to get cute and say things like connect with us and join us. People are looking for a contact button. Give them a contact button, and then go to the contact page and include not just a form. Include your email address, include your street address where possible, or post office box. As many ways for people to contact you as you can, because it shows people you're a solid business. Whereas if you've just got a contact form, and let me tell you, contact forms have a way of failing. I can't tell you how many times I've contacted people through contact forms and they never get back to me. And my guess is because the contact form failed. Have I shared with you the story of how I first started in business, and I spent a lot of money advertising and had a contact form? Yeah. So I learned the hard way. Back 18 years ago when I started, it cost me many thousands of dollars in advertising and not seeing any results, only to find out that my contact form failed. So now I don't want people to make the same mistakes and learn from my not checking it properly.
Yep, good point.
The next page would be your About Us page. But I think, as we talked about last time, make the page a little bit about you. But again, if you can turn it around and make it about what you can do for your customers, that will go a long way. Make sure you include things like the business hours you're open, where they can find you. Because more often than not, we're using mobile numbers. And especially for small businesses. And if I'm calling somebody, I can generally recognize that it's maybe an Australian number, but I don't know, are they located in Western Australia, which means there's a 3-hour time difference. So if I'm calling them at 9 o'clock Sydney time, am I going to be reaching them at 6 in the morning? So include the location, the business hours you're open, when somebody can chat to you.
If you're a small business, you should never be closed, right, Ivana?
No, that's when you need to put up boundaries and have a break, because I burned myself out because I was working 20. See, I can't even think.
27 hours a day. 24
hours, 7 days a week. and you know what? It was silly of me, because I felt like I had to be everything to everybody, and people take advantage of it. So I'm not very good past sort of 6 o'clock at night. So I'm good in the morning, but not at night. But I had a client call me at like 11 o'clock at night expecting me to answer. And back then I answered, silly me. I think when you've got a small business, you need to set the boundaries and put those hours that you are available. Or perhaps, a lot of service businesses, they might maybe be running online programs, for example, and talking to people on Zoom. So they might not be able to take calls, say, from 9 to 12 in the morning. They can only take them in the afternoon. So it's important to tell people when you are able to speak to them. Or the other alternative, add a calendar where they can book in for a consult or a free strategy session or something like that. And then that makes it a lot easier. And I found that was really helpful for me.
I think that this About Us page is really, really interesting, because we talked about it in the last episode, and the more you can put about your customer and who your audience is. I've actually flicked it right around now. We're going to put about you on our site, and it's going to be about, this is who our customers are, this is who our audience is. And because it's even surprised us to find out who our demographic is, and the age range is huge in terms of very, very wide. So it gave us a bit of a surprise to understand our audience a bit more, and we wanted to share that this is who's actually dialing into us.
Yeah, no, it's important. I mean, have the things that are important for them to know about you. If you're a doctor and you need to have your qualifications, then obviously things like that are important. But we'll go into more details when we're covering the About Us and Contact Us page.
Okay.
The next page, which I think is incredibly important, is a frequently asked questions page. And this is a page that I don't see on many websites. And why I say it's important is because, again, we are looking for answers to our problems. And so oftentimes that's the very first page that people look for. It's, I want questions answered about the problem, and I don't want to be reading a whole website. So if you can have a frequently asked questions, and the best way to create a frequently asked questions page is turn the content of your website into questions.
That's a great idea.
And have as much information as you can, because oftentimes that's the very first page people will go to after they've been to the home page. So feature it on your website and answer people's questions that sometimes they don't even know they need to ask, because then they will see you as the expert in your field because they know that you understand them. So frequently asked questions, incredibly important.
Brilliant.
The next page, and I've had a lot of pushback on this, but I am standing solid on this, and that is to include pricing. So many people I have heard saying, I don't want my competitors to find out how much I charge, so I don't put it out there. They work out of fear rather than serving their customers. Now, if I'm going to hire you and you charging $2,000 an hour, I can't afford to pay for your services. So let's not waste your time and my time. If, on the other hand, you're charging $200 and I can afford that, then I'll go, okay, I can afford this person. And I know sometimes there might be project-based prices. In that case, I would do maybe case studies and just highlight what a person got for a package. You know, they paid maybe $1,500 for whatever service or program you offer. So having packages or having a from price. If you're a carpet cleaner, for example, having from $50 per room or per square meter or however you charge, but always put the pricing.
I want to talk about this fear people have about doing things like this, because it's very rampant, this fear across small businesses, and I understand why it is actually. But the fact is that if you are starting a business, then you should be working on the basis that no one else in the world is going to do what you're going to do like you are, because you are unique and you're going to offer your services in a unique way. So the price point is one of them, but what you're going to deliver as far as a service, you know, working with Ivana on website development is completely different than working with a person next door who does website development, and yet they might charge the same price or they might charge different prices, right? So
it's all about finding your person, somebody you feel comfortable working with. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think in terms of, so I'm backing you in terms of, I agree that the prices should be there on the website, because you should be able to differentiate yourself on your website with all the other pieces of information that you're going to provide your customer, so they go, okay, this is the person I want to work for, and by the way, they fit into my budget.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the other thing that I want to say about pricing is that one should never create their business or their website and compete on price. Rather compete on what you offer. Because I have seen people actually lose business when they're too cheap, because people perceive them not to be as high quality. So rather than reducing your price, and that's a very dangerous game to play, because then your competitor is going to reduce it and then you end up working for nothing. Again, a lesson that I learned myself, and until I decided, you know what, my time is valuable. And I think sometimes when you're starting out in business, you don't know how to price your products, and so talking to your accountant can sometimes help, or if you've got like a mastermind group that you're part of, that can help in pricing your products, because there's so much that goes into pricing your services, your time. You're going to be doing things that you're not actually going to get paid for. So all of that needs to be included in the price. So just because, say, for example, if I'm creating a website and I know it takes me between 10 to 15 hours to create a website from beginning to the end, but then I spend maybe another hour talking to the client on the phone, another 3 hours talking to communicating with them via email and setting things up. And so all of that needs to be included in the price. So I think don't compete on the price, but just compete on the value that you provide.
Yeah, excellent. Good advice. I've got nothing else to add to that. I think that was very, very articulate, Ivana. You did great.
Thank you. And so the next page would be testimonials. And I think this is absolutely not negotiable. Testimonials, people will believe not so much what you say about yourself and how good you are, but people will believe what others are saying about you. And if you can get video testimonials, they go a long way. But if you can't, at least get a photo of the person and get as many details of that person as you can. So if they've got a website, for example, you can link to their website, or if they just own a business, specify the business name, the person's full name if they give you permission, but include it. And I think last time we talked about if you are just starting out in business and you haven't got any testimonials, give away your product or services for free or at a highly discounted rate, just so you can get those testimonials. Google is now giving a lot more weight to products that have got high review rates. So, and we'll talk about getting your website into the search engines. And so one of the things is getting people reviewed on Google. So it's important that you have testimonials on your website as well as within Google.
It's a big thing. I'm just going to teach you a little bit about podcasting for a minute, Ivana. It's a very big thing about. It's a very big thing in the podcast world too. If you get reviews on, those main sites like Apple and Spotify and Stitcher and all those guys, your numbers shoot up because they prioritize those people that are getting lots of good reviews, and you tend to go to the top of the tree. So across everything you do, if you're getting customer reviews, you should be sharing those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just, I think, on podcasts, but on all social media. The more interaction there is, the more people are giving you thumbs up. It shoots. And I've seen a lot of that happen actually on LinkedIn. Some of the posts that I put out there, they go trending, and I'm finding that people are finding me that I never thought they would actually find. But yeah, LinkedIn gives me the thumbs up because I'm sharing valuable content.
What percentage of your business is referral business from testimonials from people that have actually used your services?
Well, you know what, Mark, I think we've discussed these numbers are not my friends. So I've never actually analyzed it. And this is where I probably need to speak to you about it. But I think I would say probably about 50% is referral.
So it's a high number, yeah.
Yeah, and it's from existing clients. And sometimes, sometimes what happens is people contact me, and sometimes I will ask, how did you find me? And then I might not hear from them for 6 months or 12 months. And so by the time they come back to me, I've forgotten but I don't track my numbers. I'm very naughty.
Okay. In that. I'll give you a check sheet after the show on how to do it easily.
Okay. All right. So the next one is a blog or a news feed. And this is important. It's good to have information out there and fresh information. Google watches how regularly updated your website is. And the more regularly you update it, the more often they will index it. So they like fresh original content, and blogs or news are the perfect way of doing it. I mean, you will see that whenever something happens in the world, like it's, we were talking about Donald Trump getting COVID-19, like within minutes that it gets published, it's actually available online. You go, how did it get indexed so fast? It's because the news channels are constantly updating their information. And so Google has learned these guys provide valuable information very quickly. And so they'll just keep checking it every few minutes or every few hours. Whereas if you update your website once every 6 months or 12 months, Google's not going to come around for another 6 or 12 months because they know you're not doing any updates. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to share just a very quick antidote that I had recently on the boat. I had to get a specific part for the boat, and I went onto a small business website to get the part. I saw that they had it at the price, they had it located near to where I was. But I had a heck of a time getting in contact with these people, and I informed them that a lot of their information on their website, their phone number was wrong, their their street address where the business was located was wrong. They had moved twice since they had updated their website. So I gave them some tips from Ivana on how regularly you should update your website. And they turned around to me and said, "Oh, we have enough business. We've been in business for 20 years, so it doesn't really worry us." That was their response.
Okay, well,
so there we go. You can only take a horse to water sometimes, can't you? Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. So that's a poor response, like from a customer's perspective.
Yep.
I think I'd be, anyway.
They didn't get my business, by the way. I went somewhere else. So
yeah, good. And so if that's how they treat their customers, that's probably eventually that's going to catch
up.
But
the reason for saying it is it just shows how important it is. Like you don't know when someone's coming to your website who has the potential to spend money with your business, and if the information's not going to be correct, then chances are they might go away, right?
Yeah, and it's not just the person who's looking at your website, it's their family, their friends, their networks. Because I could be having a conversation with a friend saying, you know what, I really want to go to the Caribbean. And they go, oh my God, did you know there's a website called Cheap Caribbean where you can get really good deals? So you never know what doors it's going to open. And if I have a really good experience, I'm likely to share that information. So don't look at it, it's just the eyeballs that are looking at your website, but everybody else in their network. So
very good point. Ticket sales to Hawaii went off after our last show. Everybody started going to Hawaii.
Oh, I wish.
There we go. Okay, blog, news feed, fantastically important. Yes.
Yep. And the last one, which is terms and conditions, and this is a little bit tricky because it's not a fun page to put together unless you're a lawyer. And I had a lawyer client and that was the very first page that they sent me because that's what they deal with. And, I was saying people generally send you what they're comfortable with. So lawyers are comfortable with terms and conditions. But I think we are living in a sort of, because business is so global these days, you need to protect yourself. And the laws that apply for us in Australia are different to maybe what's happening in Canada or in the US. So it's important to have terms and conditions for your website.
Absolutely.
Just in case, just to protect yourself. I mean, one thing that I didn't realize, and this was something that I had learned from lawyers, is that you are responsible for any comments on your website. So if somebody, and I had this happen to me, I think I had enabled my blog to have comments, and I had featured a business and somebody had left a negative comment about that particular business because that was their experience. The company then contacted me and they said, I want you to delete that comment or we will sue you because it was on my website. And so I contacted the lawyer and he said, yeah, you are because it wasn't based on fact. There was so much more. And I thought, I don't want to get involved in a legal fight between people. So I just deleted the whole lot. But yeah, so you have to be really careful and you want to protect yourself and for people visiting you. So terms and conditions, incredibly important. And if you are, I think a lot of people sort of copy them from other websites, maybe run it past a lawyer just to make sure that what you've got on there applies for your country and your area and that you are covered in every aspect of business.
Another lesson in that lot is to make sure that you review all comments before they go on to your respective platforms, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or your website or your YouTube channel. And that's why these platforms do have a icon there for you to click on to say hold all reviews before posting or publishing. And you have the right to do that. So that's a way of also filtering out those unwanted comments.
Yes, that's very true. The problem is what I have found with comments on websites, and especially on WordPress websites, is that there's a lot of spam. So I say to most people, don't enable comments on your website, because you're going to be, even if you do select that you want to check comments, you're going to be ticking off people selling Viagra, and it's not going to add any value. It's going to waste a lot of time. So I would say don't have comments.
Nothing wrong with the product, but it has its place. It has its place in its time, Ivana. Yeah, it has the right places where it needs to be marketed. Yeah,
web developers' website.
Yeah, and don't come running to Humanity, everybody, trying to find the little blue pill, because we don't sell it.
That's a whole different channel.
That's another channel. That's right. Exactly.
And the other thing that I wanted to say with Google reviews, I don't think, like, once somebody posts a review, so make sure when you're asking somebody for a review, make sure they're going to give you a good review, because with Google reviews, it's a lot harder to shut them down or to have them deleted. Once they're there, they're there. So. And if you are providing poor service, you're going to very quickly find out, because people will leave those reviews.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, cool. Good.
So those are the main pages that I would include on a website.
Yep.
Have we had any other questions that you wanted answered?
I have one that I've just made up in terms of the blog, blog posts and news feeds. When you say, regularly updating them, people are going to be stressed now because they feel as though they need to be on their website every day putting new content up. Is that how it works or not?
The more often you can post, the better. But it's better to go for quality than quantity. Like, don't put out crappy articles just for the sake of posting it. Now, there is a really good service that I discovered a few years ago called Source Bottle. And you can actually get articles written for free that you can then feature on your website.
Oh, okay. Source Bottle.
Yeah, Source Bottle, SOURCE bottle.com. And you can either get people to give you their opinion or information so that you can write the article yourself, or you can often ask for people to write articles. And I'll give you an example. I used to put out what they call a call out, and I said, anybody who has information on time management for small businesses, for example, if you are willing to write an article, and I would specify, it has to be minimum 1,000 words or whatever you want to include. I will publish your article, providing it's good quality, not Google translated from Indian. It had to be really good quality. And then I would publish it. So it didn't take me any time to research it. And so the only thing that it took was a little bit of my time in publishing it. But why people do it is because they then get links to their website. And so what happens is when somebody writes the article for you, they will put their bio, which is maybe at the bottom of the website or something, or just a link to their website at the bottom of the article. And so that's kind of the payoff. So you get a great article written by somebody who knows about that particular topic. And so for me, it was really good. Obviously, I wasn't accepting articles from other web developers, but I would accept articles from maybe business coaches that knew a lot about that particular topic. And it was a cluster of maybe 5 to 10 articles that I would receive. And so it then makes you look like you're an expert in so many things that you might not really know about. But that's one way to get a lot of good quality content without having to pay for it.
Yeah, okay. Good advice there. So if you're out there worried and stressed about how you're going to create content for your website, Ivana's just given you a lead there in sourcebottle.com, is it? Is it sourcebottle.com?
I think it's .com, yeah.
Okay.
I do have one question that I get asked a lot, so I just wanted to answer that, and that is, where do I get images for my website? The very first thing that I want to say, never, ever, ever should you use Google Images for your photos and images. They're not free for you to use, and just because they're on the internet doesn't mean they are available to be used by anybody. So never touch it. If you've got images that you have sourced from Google Images, take them down immediately, because a lot of the big image banks, they have very sophisticated software and they will find you. And if you haven't paid for that image, you could be up for thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in fines. So remove any Google Images. And instead, there are websites where you can get free images. One is called Pixabay, Unsplash, Pexels, and those can be used for commercial purposes. So if you've got a website, they can be used for business without having to write where you actually got the image. So those are free. You can use them from there. But I say, in most cases, take your own photos. Have your own original images, because Google looks at the content of your website and not just the text, but also the images. And so if you can have original photos, that's probably the best. Obviously, get a professional photographer if you can afford it. And as we said last time, it doesn't have to cost a lot of money to get a professional photographer, and it will make you stand out from your competitors. And there are paid image banks, such I think Adobe has Dreams Time and that sort of thing, and you can get images generally from $5, $10 up to maybe $100. But be really careful that you read their terms and conditions, because sometimes you might be buying an image, let's say for $5, but you're only able to use that image for the website. You can't use it for printed material. So make sure that the image that you're using for that, you've got the right licensing for it, because as I said, they will come after you. And I had something like that happen for a client. We created his website 12 years ago or something, and he provided his images. And just in the last 3 or 4 years, he was contacted by a company, and they said, no, you're going to pay us $2,500. And they have their own calculations. It was an image that he just happened to find at Google Images. And that particular image was shown on thousands of other websites. He was a carpet cleaner, and so it was a cat and a dog sitting on carpet. And yeah, they came after him, and he ended up negotiating down. So I don't think he paid quite the $2,000. But back then we couldn't find images. Like there was no reverse image lookup. Now there is. It's a lot easier to find. And you can use that, like, say, for example, if you've paid for images and you've got really good quality photos and somebody's copying them, you can easily find that out as well.
Yep.
So
good advice.
So those would be my
Great
tips.
Advice. Be authentic, people. Be authentic. Go out there and get your own photography. Okay, Ivana, homework. We got homework for folks.
Homework, it's to come up with a list of most important pages to include on website. But really, that's not homework. Like, you should be having all the pages that we discussed today. So just writing down and maybe starting to think about the information you will include on those pages. And to help you along, we will have a downloadable called 24 Essential Pages to include on your website. So you can download it and use that to check against what you've got so far.
Good. One last thing from me today. If you want to add an additional page that we haven't mentioned, or Ivana hasn't mentioned, about what should be a critical page on your website, and you think it's important, let us know. We want to know if you think you've come up with a great topic for your website page that we haven't mentioned, or it's not in Ivana's list. Let us know, and we'll share it next time in the next episode.
Good idea. We can learn from others as well.
There we go. Ivana, it's been great having you again. Episode 6 is done. We can move on, and I'm feeling as though we're going to change the world with this show. These Canadians over there now are going to sit down and all going to build their websites, yeah?
We're going to have amazing websites to look forward to and to review. So great talking to you again, Mark, and I'll see you soon.
Will do. Bye for now.
Bye.
There we are, everyone. That was Ivana Katz again with us and telling us about what are the important pages that we need to have on our website. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Lots of fantastic information coming your way from Ivana throughout this series. And if you haven't caught up with the episodes yet, go back to the beginning and follow them through, because they're really, really valuable. And I'm sure that for everybody that is following the series, by the time you get to the end, you are going to have a fantastic website. Thanks for joining us on Humanity today. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, and you'll be notified about the new episodes as they come out. And please check out our old episodes. There's over 200 episodes there from Humanity, and whether you like travel, business, or just life stories from people, there's lots of great episodes for you to listen to. If you've enjoyed our episode today, tell someone about it, whether it be a friend, a family member, or even a work colleague. We want to get as many people listening to the channel as we can from around the world. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much. And until next time, have a happy day, a happy week, and stay well and safe.